How did meeting with Desmond Tutu in Bali influence your understanding of hope?
Okay, so I met Desmond Tutu around the time I was building this resort villa in Bali, and he was in town to be a keynote speaker for a conference on hope and creating value toward the future, that kind of a topic. And he told this story. He ended his speech, his keynote speech, by telling a story of an ugly duckling that all the other birds ostracized because he was so ugly and different. But the farmer who tended the flock saw something kind of unique in this scrawny, ugly bird, and so he nurtured him over time. And as Tutu finished the story, at a certain point, the bird had developed and had grown wings, and it was ready for him to take flight. And the farmer lifted this, what had been a gangly bird, and it has turned into this magnificent bird. Turns out it wasn't a duck at all; it was an eagle, right? And so the farmer launched this eagle into the sky and said, "Fly, fly, fly!" And at that moment, Desmond Tutu just dropped his mic, landed in a tremendous thud, shocked the entire audience, and he walked off the stage. That's the way he ended his keynote speech. So it had a real impact on us. So I just happened to know the lady who coordinated this whole event. She was my friend that I'd developed, met her at an internet shop. And so she told me that evening there was going to be a farewell party for Tutu, and that if I would like to come, there would only be 25 people there, mostly dignitaries, and a couple of dozen students that Tutu had requested come. And so I thought, wow, this is just an amazing opportunity to meet such a person, who he and Nelson Mandela, rebuilt South Africa after apartheid and everything. And it was through Tutu's hope that he was able to, both Mandela and Tutu, through their hope, they were able to rise above their own restrictions, both as black men, and Mandela having been in prison for 27 years. His hope enabled him to come out of prison without hatred and harboring ill feelings toward his captors. And in fact, when Mandela became the president of South Africa, he invited his the cell guards that had him in captivity for 27 years, invited them to sit in the front row. No feeling of revenge, and just set the pace for hope for South Africa's future. So this is what Tutu really embodied in his life. So to be able to go to a gathering where he was and to be around this kind of a magnificent kind of person, and to experience this firsthand. But it's not that I could talk to him too much or whatever. But at some point, I did. He did introduce himself. He walked up and said, he didn't say, "I'm Desmond Tutu," because of course I knew that. But the first question he asked me is, what is my hope for the future? His whole life was built around hope. And so it's like this kind of was shocking. I said, to grow, to expand, and to share. Just 3 words that just kind of came out. And he said, please move forward in your life and inspire countless others with the Spirit. So it was a short kind of conversation, but so meaningful. I'd been studying about these concepts at that point for 40 years in my Buddhist studies, and reading these great writings of people who expound about this kind of stuff. So it wasn't that I was unfamiliar with it, but it reinforced it, and it helped entrench, that my mission, validated by Desmond Tutu, was to go out into the world and inspire countless others. That's basically what he told me to do. So I was already setting out on that mission, but this really reinforced it. Now I got to do it. I in effect promised Desmond Tutu. So that connection was so, from my standpoint, I can only judge from my standpoint, was so deep and so profound and so meaningful that it actually manifested in a rather crazy kind of way. The next morning, I knew Tutu was leaving that next morning. The next morning I got up early and was driving into town, and there was a big traffic jam. And so all the cars were stopped, and my car wound up being the first car that got stopped in line for oncoming traffic. And quickly, the sirens were going, and I realized this was Desmond Tutu's entourage leaving this village, going to the airport to go back to South Africa. So, I sat there and I thought, wow, because I was confident that because I took it to heart, his message to me, and I said, okay, I'm going to go live this. I'm going to somehow fulfill this, even though he didn't realize what he had planted in me, that, it would put me in a rhythm to even be the first person in line to see him exit. This did not all happen by coincidence. The fact that I was there at that moment in time, that was even more further validation. It even strengthened my vow. Okay, now I really got to go do this. If I've got that kind of rhythm with such a short connection with Desmond Tutu, I really got to go do something in my life with this. I didn't know that a decade and a half later, I'd be writing a book about all this stuff, hidden powers, right? But that was one of the cementing events in my life that actually prepared me for what, a loftier mission than just going out and trying to be a great photographer and make my own money or whatever. What can I do? Writing this book was a way I could kind of share all these experiences in hopes that it would inspire hope in other people, right? So that one event with Desmond Tutu was another building block in that foundation that would prepare me for this. So really great experience.